name's Lori, and I'm going to be talking about, well, this is going to be starting off, we're going to be talking football. We're going to be talking about Oregon, Mariota, Tennessee Titans, and it's going to lead into the Chargers, Justin Herbert, Tua, Bengals, and just a lot of quarterback stuff. Anyway, and we're going to start off with, because this is kind of all intermixed and all kind of, run together, and basically it's quarterback stuff, and, anyway, you'll kind of get the gist of where I'm going with this. And anyway, let's talk about Mariota and kind of my gist and my feeling about kind of his kind of story about Mariota, why he's kind of where he's at right now, and everybody kind of runs him down because they feel like, I don't know what they feel, but the reason why he's Jew is it's always the quarterback's fault when something goes wrong, but you is it's celebrated when everything goes right, or one way or the other. When basically Mariota, when he was at Oregon, let's back up. When he was at school in Hawaii, he basically turned Hawaii upside down, because it was who he was as a person. He really, in the Polynesian community, if you go back and look at it, they really, in their culture, it's like in our old days, it was like, who you are as a person. It's like it trains a village to raise a person type of thing. So anyway, they look very much in their culture. It's a really interesting culture. So anyway, they really put a lot on their young men, but it kind of leads into where Tua is and all this kind of stuff. So that's why they think so much of him, because you see, without Mariota, there would be no Tua. So because of what Mariota did, he paved the way for other kids to break out, because before that, the only way you got off of Hawaii and made it into the NFL or made it into college was if you played offense or defensive lineman. One of the big guys, if you were a skill player, you never made it off the island. And they really weren't into, I don't think they are right now either, basketball or whatever. It's sports. Football was really their sport. And so that's when he kind of blew open the door at Oregon and basically blew it up. He really blew it up in more ways than one, because of who he was as a person, but also he provided, everybody started looking all of a sudden at all these kids from Hawaii. And there's kind of a funny story behind that, because all of a sudden they had all these offensive linemen wanting to play quarterback. It's kind of a funny story. And then now all of a sudden wanted to play quarterback but wide receiver, and so you had all these offense and defensive linemen either playing cornerback or, so I guess it was pretty funny, but it was a complete mess. So anyway, he really opened the door for a lot of kids to be able to. Now you got all these quarterbacks coming out of the state of Hawaii, and this guy Vinny, who's a quarterback coach in Hawaii now, he coaches a lot of the quarterbacks, and he's got his fingerprints all over Tua and Mariota's. So if you look into anybody that comes from there, look to see who their quarterback coach, and it was this guy Vinny. I don't have his last name, but all you have to do is look it up. Just look up the local, and it's really interesting, really neat person, coach there, a local coach through St. Louis High School, but I think he does it private. Anyway, but when Mariota went to Oregon, and that's why Oregon has such a big pull, Polynesian pull there, is because of what Mariota did. So, and now I suppose that Alabama has a real strong following there in the Polynesian community because of Tua. So anybody that does well in the Polynesian community is going to have a strong influence with the players, with the state of Hawaii, and that's why there's such a powerful influence. But anyway, when Mariota went to Oregon, he had such a impactful influence. He basically turned the state, the university, basically upside down. It was, I mean, reading about it, I mean, they built a building and named it after him. And and he was so impactful on the team that it was just phenomenal. You know, usually you have a heart and soul team, but they don't cover all the sports across the board, which was interesting. So even in the academics, you know, across the board, he just changed the whole culture of that university, which was really interesting. So when he left, first of all, they didn't, you know, usually when a coach, a really good coach, and this is why those coaches aren't really, we'll get into Chip Kelly and, you know, why I don't think he's successful right now. He seems like a good person, but, you know, he's an intellectual. He's not a people person. We'll get into him later on one of the other videos. But anyway, they have to be somebody that can command a room. And, you know, those coaches there at the time weren't the type of coaches that can command a room. So when Mariota left, there was nobody that commanded the room. Mariota commanded the room. And so it was all of a sudden, and Mariota also took the seniors with him and the other players that went into the NFL or graduated. So all of a sudden, it just basically collapsed on itself. And so it just fell apart and imploded within itself. So I knew that was going to happen later on, and Justin Herbert kind of walked into that. But that's going to be on the next video. We're going to be talking about that. But on this video, we're going to be talking about Mariota and when he went to the Tennessee Titans. And that's you know, a lot of people don't realize is what a mess he walked into. Okay, everybody thinks that, you know, oh yeah, they look at the numbers and, you know, look at the players and look at the coaches and the stats and everything, but that doesn't always tell the story. And what Mariota walked into was the Browns level mess. Okay, it was a cultural mess. You know, when you look at losing teams, there's usually more than a reason. I would just first take a look at the culture of the team. It's not always the players, because individually, I guess they didn't. Some of their players individually shouldn't have been that bad. I mean, they weren't the greatest, but they shouldn't have been as bad as what their record said. But they were pretty bad. You know, altogether they didn't get along. So he walked into basically a hot mess. They had no identity. The management was in crisis. I guess the owner's father, the controlling owner, Miss Amy, they call her Miss Amy. Miss Amy had him drunk. But anyway, this is kind of before she took over. Her father had, I guess, died or passed away or something, like a year or a year earlier or something like that. Anyway, and so it was kind of in turmoil and flux, and nobody knew whether it was being the owners, the team was going to get sold or what was happening, and so it was kind of leaderless for quite a while before that. So I guess it was just in turmoil for quite a long time. So it was kind of just in a major upheaval. So when Mariota walked in, he walked into a complete mess from a culture standpoint, you know, from everything. So when he walked in, he walked into a room where the players were fighting with the coaches, were fighting with each other. So basically, you know, nobody's going to play up to their God-given ability when they can't stand each other, or they can't, you know, I don't think they're physically fighting, or maybe they were throwing some punches, I don't know. But they were verbally attacking each other at the very least. You know, I get this all from local news media because they seem to know a lot more because Tennessee is such a small market that you generally don't get the inside scoop. You're not going to really get inside scoops like